Hello everyone, I'm Zeus Caravallo from ZK Research, and I'm here for a ZK Research customer story. I'm here at the Palo Alto Ignite user conference in Las Vegas. It's a great time to be in Las Vegas.
Excellent.
I'm joined by Jonathan Reich, who's the CIO of the City of Gainesville, Georgia.
Georgia, yes sir.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I didn't know there was one of those. But
there you go.
Anyways, we're going to be talking XDR and AI and automation and things like that.
Sure.
Before we do that, though, just give us a quick introduction to yourself.
So again, thank you. I'm Jonathan Reich with the City of Gainesville, Georgia. I've been with them for 6 years. I've been in government, local government, for about 12 in total, and in private sector about 15 before that. We've got a small but mighty team. You know, the government sector isn't always the mightiest with staff.
No.
Or budgets.
No.
Right? So we
That's
do a lot.
That's a tough transmission too.
Well, it is.
Private to public sector.
100%.
Yeah.
And so we do try to make the best decisions with our dollars in order to get the best bang buck. So I've been a Palo customer for about 7 years and really am enjoying what they provide us.
Yeah. So public sector, obviously, you're a target for a lot of directed attacks, right?
Sure.
So and security is a very tough area, especially on limited budget. And so, what were some of the challenges you were seeing with your security, team and operations that caused you to go out and look for a different type of solution?
So that's a great point. I mean, I would say 6 years ago, the XDR concept was really getting going. And I think like everybody else, we were using traditional AV. Between traditional AV and next-gen AV, there's some machine learning in that, but it still didn't solve the problem with 0 days and the stuff that's new and nobody knows about, right?
Well, traditional AV is very signature-based.
That's right.
So it can only solve things that were known.
That's right.
And then...
and that's a problem.
Yeah, because the threat actors also know they're known, so they just use machine learning to create something that's not known.
That's right.
And there you get all these 0 days. And
actually, a hash only has to be slightly different,
yeah.
Right? So we were attending, I can't remember the actual event, but we attended a course or a demonstration where they were putting out Palo Alto's traps, and that was the predecessor to XDR.
Yeah.
And they really didn't work hard. They shocked us by opening up a VM, downloading the last viruses and malware that was put out in the last 5 minutes, disconnected the NICs, showed that it didn't communicate, and then ran those executables and traps, now Cortex, stopped every one of them, and it literally made us take a step back and go, oh, this is something. This is huge. And again, with the limited types of staff or dollars, we have to maximize our spend. So XDR really was a no-brainer once we started to really look into it. And Palo did a great job showing us what we needed to see. We had some on-site demos. Great tool. We've been using it since the versions in Traps 4.0 and before.
Yeah, now there's multiple definitions of XDR. I wrote about it first in 2018, and my definition is the X. Some think the X stands for extended, so it's kind of an extension of EDR. I don't really think of that. I think of X being everything.
Sure. Where
you try and bring in network,
right?
Cloud, right.
Exactly.
And is that more along the lines of how you're thinking?
Absolutely. You got the cloud side, right? And so the endpoint isn't the only thing anymore. And so we utilize that. We're really starting to go, how can we use this data? Because it's rich from those endpoints and from the network side and from the cloud. It provides us lots of data. So now we're trying to figure out how do we take it to the next step and automate it.
Yeah, and so has it allowed you then to consolidate functions too? So did you before have a separate EDR, NDR solution that maybe you can bring it down into one product now?
We did, but it wasn't done in the way you think. So again, with the smaller budgets and the smaller groups, we were living on the land with regards to an antivirus that we won't name. We made the straight jump, and what it did was it allowed us to continue maintaining without asking for really much more money. So our benefit wasn't that I got to repurpose or I got to consolidate. It was now I get to do more with the same.
Yeah. And so how have you measured the benefit that it's brought you?
So there's a couple ways. The most obvious is I don't have as much users or staff working to collect the data. We aren't worried about the going and fixing the problems anymore. They're stopped. So the level of information we're getting, the protection we're getting is just awesome. We often do training with staff, but the training only goes so far. We have to be able to fix it or prevent it before it even starts. So our benefit, again, being a small shop, was I got to really accelerate how we defend, accelerate how we protect, accelerate how we gather that data. And it's been just great. I mean, I can't say enough good things.
And have you been able to quantify that, perhaps before you saw this many, you caught this many threats versus now you catch this many, or, how many, exploits you had to go fix before or after?
Yes and no. So the traditional way, we didn't catch a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. So
right? So we don't know what we were looking. We went into a whole cascade of data or an experience that hadn't been quantified really, because it was a different breed. So I think the way we say it is the number of alerts has started to go down. Well, as soon as we made that change, the stuff that we knew about were fine because that was being handled before. Now, I'm getting notified on things that are real.
Yeah, and so instead of it actually hurting your business, you're catching it before.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's obviously for city organization, that's huge, so you don't lose confidence
Big
in
deal.
citizens and things like that.
That's right.
And what about from a staffing perspective, right? There's a lot of talk about the Great Resignation, skill shortages. Are you seeing that, and has this helped?
The Great Recession and the fact that we are having a hard time finding staff is real. I think everyone would admit that. I think what we're learning is when we get partnered with education or college and high school and the groups that are learning, we try to catch them then and say, intern with us. Let's spend some time. We go educate. We go out and go and try to help the school systems and the colleges to tweak how they're talking to their students. It helps us then. They automatically call me and go, hey, I'm out of school. You got a job? And I go, no. Or I do, and we talk from there. But the world we're living in only makes it so that it's harder without the tools to ensure we're getting all the data where we need to. I mean, instead of it taking 4 hours to do an investigation, I have the data in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it could be in various different ways, but I'm not spending the time cycles on skills from people that may or may not have them. So I'm able to train and get people in that it might be a little bit more green, that have some time to build and take classes. So I'm putting people in seats that have the skill set, but maybe not the experience.
And you're also not putting such a burden on your high-level engineers as well, right?
That's right.
Because that's an interesting sort of double-pronged effect.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be working, right?
Yeah.
The tools are helping us with the staffing because I don't have to have all of this knowledge come in right away.
When you first introduced XDR, did you get any hesitation from your staff of the automation AI capabilities that were, it's taking my job? None of that, huh?
Nothing. In fact, it was so exciting to the team that they turned and said, wow, we didn't even know that was happening, or we didn't know this was a problem. It was really, really culture changing because we were able to say, now we see things you couldn't see before. We were in the dark.
Yeah.
Just based on the technology changes. It was well adopted, quick. I mean, I can't say enough good things. It was so changing to the environment that I think they were able to start thinking differently. And that's really the key to me.
Yeah, now XDR is just one of the products that falls under the larger umbrella of Palo Alto's Cortex.
Sure.
Right? There's also XSOAR, there's Expanse, and then there's sort of the umbrella SIM, XSIM, right? So are you looking at any of those? Like, do any of those excite you?
They all excite me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to plan that, right? So with the limited budgets and those things that aren't really so much a problem for the larger enterprise, we have to really look at it and say, where is the best use? I am looking to ensure that the next step for us is XSOAR, because I think there's a value in automation and being able to say, all right, we know what they're doing, we know what we need to do if this is to occur, so let's automate that. Let's stop wasting the time that they do put in trying to collect the data, deciding what to do, and just go ahead and do it. So I'm really excited about the automation of the SOC, the ability, being able to take those tasks and get them done instantly or within a reasonable amount of time that a human just can't do.
And what's your utopian vision for what the SOC would look like? Would it be something that's fully automated? Would the machines assist your engineers? What would that look like?
Thanks for that question. That's loaded, but I think to the spirit of it, we want to make it more efficient. And I think there's a combination of automation and human. I think the human belongs in the SOC. I think it's more of a supervisory role, and let the machines do what they're supposed to do. I mean, somebody's got to put eyes on it. Somebody's got to validate. Somebody's got to make notifications and just validate that we're seeing what we're seeing. And I think the more it matures and the more that process can be tuned to the processes we have, I mean, it could be less and less humans. But I still think there is a part that humans need to be the checksum of sorts.
Yeah, I've used the analogy before. It's a little bit like what's going on with vehicles. And
great point.
Yeah, nobody's going to jump in a car with no driver and no controls. Right. But we do benefit a lot today from features such as parallel park assist and lane change alert. And no one says to you, if your lane change alert doesn't go off, don't shoulder check, right? But it's an indicator to help make you a better driver.
That's right.
Same with adaptive cruise control, right? Don't go speeding through an area. You still have to be aware of what the speed limit is and things.
That's a great way to describe that.
But it makes us better drivers. And similarly, I think tools like XDR and XSOAR in particular in this case, can actually make us better engineers.
I love that. That's a great, I'm going to use it.
All right.
I love that.
I just want one last question for you. We are here at the Ignite conference, right? And as an attendee, you must have come here hoping to learn something. What was that, and what are you hoping to get out of this from a knowledge standpoint?
I think the biggest thing for me is we talk about automating the SOC or doing more with less, or better saying, maximize the time that your staff is working on something, or any individual. So the machine learning or the AI, however you refer to it, to me is exciting. I think that is going to be the answer instead of having to put 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 more analysts in the seats, because we're never going to get the human to work as fast as we can.
Well, you could go with an infinite number and you still wouldn't, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so to me, how does that happen? And they talked today in some of the keynotes about, it's about the ecosystem. It's about the collection of the data. It's about how does Palo continue to collect knowledge that feeds that machine learning or that AI slices. I mean, I think what we'll see is exciting to me is the more data it collects and the more it can learn, and the more samples it gets to deal with, the faster and the better the responses are going to be.
Yeah, it's interesting because they, during the keynotes this morning, they showed a slide that talked about the improvement in its ability to find threats and things. And you can see it was an exponential growth in learning. And it's an interesting lesson for people watching this is, I know a lot of times people will say with AI tools, well, they still make mistakes. Sure, but they're better than people.
100%,
right?
and they don't need sleep, and they don't need breaks, and they don't need time.
And they do get better over time, right? And that's the big thing. And so when I think of Cortex, it's funny because I asked somebody this morning, what is Cortex? To ask him to define it, and he said, it's a set of SOC tools. But to me, Cortex is really the data lake it has. Right, and it's interesting that you brought up data, because I think of it as the data lake, and then XDR, XSOAR, Expanse just become applications that leverage the data.
Boom.
Right? With the ultimate goal being XSAM. So So anyway, Jonathan, that was fantastic. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Well, I don't. I just thank you for your time. I mean, it was a great experience. The tools are awesome. I just can't wait to see them even get even better.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining. I'm Zeus Caraval from ZK Research. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on another customer story.